but 1 American in 3 believes there was a cover-up. That discovery put a new fear at the top of my list, a fear of people who believe such things. By the time you complete this book, you will be amazed by this unusual aspect of American life. Be clear, many things are worthy of our fears. For example, the fear of environmental degradation is high on the list for the Americans sampled in this study. The authors of this book do not intend to dismiss fears altogether. However, they demonstrate the many ways in which some fears can paralyze us and distract us from things actually worth fearing. Clearly, I have the highest regard for this book, and my assessment is unbiased by the fact that the annual Chapman University Survey of American Fears, from which it emerges, was a project of the Earl Babby Research Center. Just a coincidence, perhaps. The book is well worth your time and attention in any event. Earl Babby, Campbell Professor of Behavioral Science, Emeritus, Chapman University. Introduction. On July 1, 2015, Catherine Steinle was enjoying a walk along Pier 14 with her father and a friend. It was a beautiful day with friends and family, a day without fear. Then Jim Steinle heard a loud bang. His 32-year-old daughter slumped against him, said, "Help me, Dad," and collapsed onto the concrete pier. Searching frantically for what was wrong, he found a bullet hole in his daughter's back. He began CPR. Paramedics arrived quickly. 2 hours later, Catherine Steinle was declared dead at San Francisco General Hospital. The bullet had pierced her aorta. The shot that killed Catherine had been fired by Jose Inez Garcia Zarate, an undocumented immigrant under the influence of sleeping pills he claimed to have found in the garbage. Garcia Zarate had been deported from the United States 5 times and had a criminal record with several felonies, including drug charges and illegal attempts at border crossing. Having been recently caught attempting to cross the border in Texas again, Garcia Zarate was passed around the justice system and by March 2015 sat in jail in San Francisco, awaiting a decade-old felony charge for possessing and selling marijuana. Further heightening the tragic circumstances behind the case, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE or ICE, had requested that Garcia Zarate be held until he could be deported once again. But he was released from the San Francisco jail on April 15, 2015, after prosecutors dropped the marijuana charges. Media outlets made the shooting into a national story, a morality tale on the dangers of illegal immigration in the run-up to a presidential election. While some headlines focused on the grief, family devastated after woman shot, killed in San Francisco, many turned to finding blame in local policies. Among the headlines were, "San Francisco jailers dumped a prisoner and Catherine Steinle died," "How San Francisco aided and abetted the murder of Kate Steinle," and "Murderer, I chose San Francisco because it is a sanctuary city." Politicians on both sides of the aisle criticized the decisions that led to Zarate's release. Then candidate Donald Trump featured the case in his Twitter feed and speeches. Both houses of Congress saw bills to create stiffer sentences for those illegally entering the country and to punish jurisdictions with sanctuary laws. When a jury acquitted the immigrant of all murder charges, a second round of anti-immigrant fervor was ignited. Part of the reason that Steinle's shooting became a cultural touchstone was that it simultaneously tapped into a number of America's greatest fears: guns, drugs, random acts of violence, illegal immigrants, and a justice system that seems to prioritize criminals over law-abiding citizens. But this simple story of a hardened criminal alien preying on the innocent was, in fact, far more complicated than it first appeared. First, as opposed to being a random predatory attack, it is highly probable that Steinle's shooting was accidental, as Garcia Zarate testified at the trial, although he initially told police he was shooting at a sea lion. The bullet had ricocheted off the concrete pier some 12 to 15 feet in front of Garcia Zarate before hitting the victim another 80 to 90 feet away. As one ballistics expert noted, "You couldn't do this on purpose." The jury members agreed that the shooting was accidental, or at least had reasonable doubt. They found Garcia Zarate not guilty of first-degree murder.